That's you, friend? Because you deleted that right after TikTok got back online for America. But screenshots live forever. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Katie, and this is Pokey. And for those of you who don't know me, I used to weigh 360 pounds, and I've lost 180 pounds and kept it off for years now. And on this channel, we will discuss weight loss, weight maintenance, nonsense I see online about body positivity and fat acceptance, my experiences with all of that, and well, anything else I feel like talking about. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And let's get into today's video. So today I have a couple of TikToks as well as a couple of Twitter posts from our friend to the channel, Victoria, or as she goes by on social media, FatFabFeminist. And I figure we'll go ahead and take a look at these together and I'll give you my reactions along the way.
By the way, if you spend all of your time starving, dieting, focusing on what you're eating, and becoming smaller, you don't have the energy to fight fascism. In case you were wondering.
Okay, so that is the entire TikTok, and I gotta admit, do have a couple of questions for our friend here and maybe a couple of observations. So, questions that I would have. Is this how she believes that people lose weight? Because I gotta tell ya, I never did any of those things to lose 180 pounds. I simply didn't. I did not starve myself. I didn't even really technically diet. I just tried to eat a little bit more healthfully and eat in better portion sizes. That was the big thing that I did. Didn't really diet by any stretch of the imagination. I wasn't focused on everything that I was eating or trying to restrict myself. And I wasn't trying to become as thin as possible. As a matter of fact, when I got down to my thinnest, I got down to 145 pounds. And for reference, I'm 5'9". I felt that was just too thin for me. So I actually did purposefully put a little bit of weight back on, because oftentimes when you have a large amount of weight to lose, I think it's kind of difficult to pinpoint a goal weight until you've actually kind of tried it on for size, so to speak. Until I got to those weights, I didn't know what it would look like or feel like. And so just trying to pick a nebulous number out of thin air that was going to be my goal, that never really worked for me. So instead, what I did was just focus on what I needed to in the moment and just try to focus on getting healthier, to improve my food choices and to try to get more active and to get better sleep and to try to get my stress in order. All of those things combined, and to do so incrementally so it didn't feel like it was that big of a deal, quite frankly, because at no point did I ever want to go to extremes. So that's what I personally did. And then as I started seeing results, it took me, almost 7 years to lose the weight. I did have a couple of babies in the middle of all of that back to back, but it did still take me about 7 years to do so. So that gave me a lot of time as I was losing weight and then just kind of maintaining those weights for a while. Thanks, Pokey. Gave me a lot of time to just kind of sit there and see how that felt or know how that looked. And then kind of assess from there if I wanted to continue to lose weight or if I felt that I was in a good place. So I'm genuinely curious. Is that how she thinks that people lose weight? Because I know that while some people might go to extremes like that, you certainly don't have to, that's for sure. Then the other question that I'll have for our friend, well, if she admits that you don't have to go to extremes in order to see weight loss, then why does she go to extremes in her example? Because it sounds specifically like she's describing EDs, which by their very definition are extreme in nature. So I'm genuinely curious why she would have listed an extreme example in this case. Unless our friend really truly believes that the only way you can lose weight is through extreme measures. And then the next question I would have for her is, how did people like myself do that then? Because I know I am certainly not alone. Because every person that I have known who has lost weight and kept it off, they didn't do any of those things that she said. So I'm just genuinely curious why she went to such an extreme, unless she believes that that is the only way that people can lose weight. And if she believes that's the only way people can lose weight, then why would people like myself have the stories that we do? So just some questions that I have for a friend, but let's go ahead and move on to the observations. And she says she wants to fight fascists, right? Well, what I think of when I think of fighting fascists, personally, I had grandparents that served in World War II, just like many in their generation did. Both of my grandpas were drafted. My grandpa on my dad's side, he was asked what branch he wanted, and then he was given his time and his place. And my grandpa on my mom's side, well, I know I've talked numerous times on here about him, but for those of you who don't know, he was born legally blind. So he was given a medical deferral. Despite the fact he was drafted, despite the fact he wanted to go and serve his country, my grandpa wasn't physically able to do so. And I mean, well, quite frankly, my grandpa wholeheartedly agreed with that decision. And he did always say it would have been a terrible idea to have given him a weapon, so... But that is one observation I have to make right there. If you wish to stand and fight, are you able to stand and fight? And this definitely isn't trying to be ableist by any stretch of the imagination. These are questions I have to ask myself all of the time. Not even just for this, but just day-to-day activities. Am I physically able to complete this task? Because I know the physical limitations that I'm up against with my connective tissue disorder. I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and my EDS makes my joints incredibly unstable and can flare up and cause a lot of issues in my life. And I mean, I don't know if our friend here has been to protests, but I know personally in the early to mid 2000s, I wished to go to a number of protests. And unfortunately, I also had a very bad ankle at that time. And I knew that if I wished to go to that protest, and then that protest went sideways, I might have to get the hell out of Dodge real fast. And if I wasn't physically able to do so, it would not be a good idea for me to go and join the protest. Not only for my own sake, but for everyone else around me. Because you have to look out for each other. And you have to be able to help the community and provide community aid if you're called upon. And so if I am not physically able to do those things, I would not want to show up and be a hindrance to the cause. That's at least just my own personal take on that. I know even just a couple of years ago, I was asked to go to a few protests in my city for things that were happening that I was not okay with, and still am not okay with. Unfortunately, I knew in that instance it was not going to be a good idea, and not necessarily for physical reasons, but childcare reasons. I had no one else to watch my kids, so the only way that was going to happen is if I took my kids with me. And again, things might go sideways. And again, you might have to get the hell out of Dodge real fast. And in those cases, I mean, let's see, tear gas was deployed, rubber bullets were deployed. They tried to corral and then start arresting a whole bunch of people just for exercising their constitutional rights. So yeah, I think it was a very good call that I didn't subject my children to that, despite wanting to have my voice heard. Because I understand that despite wanting to join a cause, you have to be able to and willing to. And so I'm genuinely curious, when our friend is talking about fighting fascism, is she physically able to do so? And I definitely don't mean this as some sort of gotcha. I simply look at it through my own experience. And I understand that at 360 pounds, I could no longer tie my own shoes. So what the hell good would it have done for me to show up to a protest if all that would be needed to take me out was untying my shoes? And then what good could I have provided to literally anybody else at that event? And I know I'm not the only one who may have had that observation or thought that in my life. So let me give you an example. I have a TikTok from a different creator here. Her name is Patricia, or she's gone by A Healthy Enthusiasm before. And, well, let her tell you in her own words.
I weighed in at 399.6 pounds today. Now, this time last year, I came on this app with every intention of getting healthy and getting to a point physically where I could actually thrive instead of just existing. And I did really well for a few months. And then 2024 rolled in like a freight train and became one of the most difficult years of my life so far, both psychologically and emotionally. We lost my uncle in the spring. My brother started having heart complications in early summer, which have still gone undiagnosed. We don't know what's going on with him yet. My papa got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in August, and we've gone through, biopsies and surgeries and radiation and are now in the throes of immunotherapy for him. My area of Appalachia was also hit by Hurricane Helene. I'm about 50 miles outside of Asheville, North Carolina, for context. So it's been a lot. And witnessing the fragile mortality of my loved ones has been very heartbreaking and has forced me really to face my own mortality. And it's also been very difficult realizing how much my size and physical limitations have prevented me from helping my neighbors during a catastrophe. So I'm very fortunate that my family's homes were not heavily impacted. But there are a lot in my community that have, and I have not been able to lend the kind of support that I would want to because of my current physical situation. This year I did try. For those that have been around, I tried using an app. I tried joining a gym to see if that would get me moving, because that is something that I do enjoy. I do enjoy going to the gym. I used to work at a gym. And I also would bulk meal prep. But I just simply did not have the bandwidth this year to lend the energy and focus to that with everything else that has compounded. The things that I shared are just a fraction of kind of the thing.
Yeah, and my heart goes out to that creator, and I hope she does find her way through this, truly. And not just with the weight loss, but everything that she's got going on in her life. I do hope things turn around for her and that she is able to then focus on herself so she can then focus on others. So again, for our friend Victoria, I'm genuinely curious. How much fighting for the cause is she physically going to be able to do? And I know personally, with my desire to help others, I've had to learn the hard way that you cannot pour from an empty cup. You must be taking care of yourself if you wish to take care of others. It does my children absolutely no good if I don't take care of myself. I could take care of them all day long, but if I am not taking care of myself, they're not getting the best version of me. And if I want to fight for a cause or offer somebody some help, shouldn't I try to offer them the best version of myself instead of phoning in some half-assed version because I wasn't taking care of myself? Just my personal observations with what I've gone through in my life. So let's go ahead and check in with our friend on Twitter and see what she's been up to. Okay, so I do have a tweet pulled up from our friend here, and this was made about a week or so ago, and it's about the TikTok ban. So let's go ahead and take a look. Only good silver lining about this TikTok ban is thinking about the panic those fucking fatphobic freaks on YouTube who took my TikToks and reacted to them on YouTube, freaking out because they can no longer make money off of my face and have nothing to post. They have nothing of value to say. And yes, that was all one sentence. But it wasn't enough. She replied to herself, a very lovely and special fuck you to them. That's you, friend? Because you deleted that right after TikTok got back online for America. But screenshots live forever. And I gotta say, when I saw this, I laughed my ass off because, well, I can't speak for any other creators on here, but personally, I definitely wasn't in a panic. That's for sure. And then let's see. Oh yes, f***ing fatphobic freaks. She resorted to name calling because she can't refute our arguments at all. She can only resort to name calling. So that is kind of an indicator to me that we are winning, but who took my TikToks and reacted to them on YouTube. Oh no, like what I do? Oh no, that's fair use, and it's completely legal. And when you put things on the internet, people are going to comment on it. People are going to have opinions on it. People will react to it. And unfortunately, with these movements, often it's the only way we can have any sort of dialogue. Any sort of dialogue whatsoever. If I were to go onto her Twitter or to go onto her TikTok and ask her these questions or make my observations, how long do you think it would be until I was blocked? because that seems to be their MO. Anytime anyone disagrees with them, they just delete and block. They don't engage. They don't have a dialogue. They just want to tell everybody all of the ways that we're wrong and then shut down the conversation. So if we wish to have a dialogue or have a conversation, this is the only way I know how to do so. They can no longer make money off of my face and have nothing to post. They have nothing of value to say. Really? Really? Victoria, friend, why can I take a 2-minute TikTok of yours and then make 35 or 40 minutes of content surrounding it? Because there is a lot to say. It just happens to be this is the format that I use for my channel. Quite frankly, I don't need to use this format. It's just one that we're familiar with. So it works. But truly nothing of value to say. I invite our friend to watch my videos. Watch them all the way through and then tell me I have nothing of value to say, or watch anybody in this space and then tell me they have nothing of value to say. I'm out here giving free weight loss advice. So many people on this app are. And not, oh my gosh, you have to starve yourself or restrict yourself or obsess over every single thing that you ever eat ever for the rest of your life in perpetuity. No, there's a lot of us out here actually talking about balance and moderation and, hey, you can still have fun things and good things. You just can't have them all the time, and that's okay. And you should exercise because it's good for you and we want to be strong and have stamina. Not because we need to punish ourselves or go work off our calories. Like, there is middle ground and there's balance to all of this. So the fact that our friend here thinks that we have nothing of value to say, I really have to laugh at that, because she either doesn't actually watch any of this, which I think is most likely the case, or she watches just long enough to get offended, turn it off, and not take anything away from it other than the fact she got offended. So again, I'm inviting her, please watch my videos, watch anyone's videos in this space. And then again, please tell us that we have nothing of value to say. And I especially love the reply tweet as well. I feel so special that we got two. That's great. But again, she deleted this the moment that TikTok came back online for the US. So, and the one thing I can't help but notice as our friend tries to tap dance on my grave, as well as all the other YouTube creators who make content like mine, she's talking about fighting fascism, but yet on the other hand, she also is celebrating a form of censorship. And this is the thing. Our friend doesn't have to like my content. She doesn't have to agree with it. But to take pleasure in the idea that somehow it was going to stop and therefore essentially be censored, I don't know, those kind of feel like two very incongruent thoughts. That you want to fight fascists, but also it's okay for selective censorship. Doesn't make any sense to me in my understanding of this. You can disagree with something. You absolutely can. But that doesn't mean you have the right to censor it. I have never once said that fat acceptance can't make their arguments. I simply say I disagree with them and I believe the science backs it up. So if our friend really wants to fight fascism, you would think she would celebrate free speech, even if it's speech she doesn't agree with. But let's go ahead and take a look at this next TikTok and see what she has to say.
I wonder if leftists understand that, like, their desire for thinness and weight loss and their hatred of fat people specifically that part, is aligned with the push towards conservatism. Like, I'm wondering, like, if you understand that fat phobia is a conservative ideal, and I'm wondering how you claim to be a leftist and to care about people and to think that your praxis is based on empathy, your feelings, your thoughts, your beliefs are based on empathy, and then you hate fat people.
Okay, wow, she is saying a lot there. And I gotta be honest, this is very similar to a TikTok that More Than Tracy T had months ago that I reacted to as well. So, let me go ahead and link that down below for you guys. But first off, she is conflating a lot of things together. That trying to lose weight or be skinny or the desire for thinness evidently is tied with a hatred of fat people first and foremost, which that is a false assumption, at least in my case, and I'm sure in many other people's cases as well. And it kind of sidesteps conveniently the whole idea that being overweight, especially being morbidly obese, comes with a whole host of health problems. I mean, the number of health problems I had in my life when I was 360 pounds was just ridiculous. I mean, let's be fair, I have a very long list now too, but to be fair, those are chronic conditions that I can't get rid of. I was born with them, and I still had them when I was 360 pounds. I just wasn't diagnosed yet, and they hadn't flared up to what they are currently. So, yeah, that just kind of sidesteps all of the health issues. And that if you're a leftist, you're going to be concerned with the social side of it, and that you're going to come at it with care and concern and empathy, right? But here's the thing. Being a leftist, it's a very broad term. And just like every other group out there, we're not a monolith. No group is a monolith at all. And, well, there's economic leftists, there's social leftists. You have people that are both. You have people that are one or the other, and they might go a different direction elsewhere. So this whole idea that if you're a leftist, you must be this, that's just not accurate. What she seems to be describing is much more liberal than leftist, in my personal understanding of this. To my understanding, to be a leftist, you have to be anti-capitalist and wish to see massive changes to our current economic system. And the one thing that I can't help but notice with these movements in general, but our friend has definitely partaken in this, complaining that they cannot participate more fully in our capitalistic system. They want to buy more clothes. They want cute, trendy, stylish clothes, and they can't ever find them in store. And they just want these brands to make clothes in their size so they can take their money. And then they'll complain if they get told that there are weight limits for activities. So it seems like they want to participate in capitalism when it suits them. Let alone then on a larger scale that there are certain things that do go along with being morbidly obese. Yes, the health complications, we already have talked about those. But also the other thing I can't help but think, how much more food I consumed at 360 pounds. As opposed to what I do now at 180. It's a big difference. I'm not going to say that I ate double the food when I was double my weight, but it was substantially more. And I ate a lot of just convenience foods and out foods that really add up, especially in today's prices. So when I think about stepping away from capitalism and not giving companies my money, losing 180 pounds definitely helped with that, because I don't spend near the amount that I used to, even with the difference in 2007 and 2008 prices versus 2025 prices. I was spending more money then just because of the amount that I was consuming. And when I would get a pizza or fast food or something like that, every single bit of it that I got was consumed that day or typically that sitting. And now if I get a pizza, that's going to last me at least 4 meals, maybe more depending on the size of the pizza, quite frankly. But I get a lot more from my food than I ever used to. And then if we think of the health side of things, the one thing I can't help but think of, at my heaviest, I was pre-diabetic. And had I not gotten my health in order when I did, I mean, I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion I'd be a diabetic by now. And at the very least, that means I'd be on medication. And, well, I mean, I might be all the way up to insulin at this point. So, do I want my money going straight to the pharmaceutical companies? Especially knowing how much they jack up the price on insulin? No, I'm so glad that I avoided that, because I was fortunate enough to get my health in order before it got to that point. Because I could only imagine what kind of financial strain that would be putting on my family right now, let alone the knowledge that that money is just going straight to the pharmaceutical companies. So, if you really are a leftist, do you want your money just going straight to big food and big pharma? Because at 360 pounds, I know that's where a lot of my money would be going to. Or would you want to not be helping prop up those industries? And then if we're talking about like leftist ideas, well, I think, saving the environment's pretty high up there, right? And unfortunately, I already know that the more food I consume, especially when we're talking like ultra processed foods, it's not good for the environment. all of the packaging, all of the cost to transport, all of the rainforest that is cleared for more farmland, etc. There's so many environmental impacts with this as well. I mean, overconsumption in pretty much every form is not good for the environment. It doesn't have to revolve around food, but I think that's one that is pretty evident. If you are over-consuming food, it's not good for the environment. And so if you're a leftist and you care about the environment, shouldn't you be trying to do all you can to protect that? And if you're a leftist and you care about healthcare costs or trying to get healthcare for all, shouldn't you be trying to do all you can to avoid giving your money to the pharmaceutical companies and to the healthcare industry? Or are we only focused on social issues if we're leftist? And the only social issue that we should care about, evidently, is fat phobia?
And then you hate fat people. I'm really curious as to like how that logic works, because it doesn't really make sense to me personally, because I don't really understand. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
And of course our friend isn't going to get it, because she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to see that overconsumption in all forms is not good for our society. And trying to tie this all together, that fat phobia is conservative, or in the push towards conservatism. I'm genuinely curious, does our friend here only ever think about like our current climate, or does she pay attention to history? Have her learned about other times in history? Because, well, quite frankly, I think of times of social progression that have happened in this country. So, for example, the 1920s was a time of social progression. Women had just gotten the right to vote, and the first wave of feminism was in its full swing. And what do you know? If we take a look at the beauty standards of the 1920s, the beauty standard was fairly thin. Actually, markedly much thinner than the Victorian counterparts of the 1900s. And then if we take a look at, the 1960s, also a time of social progression. We had civil rights movements and women's lib movements and a whole bunch of progression on a lot of fronts, quite frankly. And who was the most popular supermodel out of the 1960s? Twiggy. Thin was in the 60s too. And if we take a look at another time of social progression, the 1990s, we had the gay rights movement that pushed towards eventual marriage equality. We had another wave of feminism. And yes, the 90s actually really were socially progressive compared to the conservative 1980s. And what was the beauty standard in the 90s? Because these communities have told us how many times how damaging these eras were to them. That's right, thin is in. It was heroin chic. So this whole idea that you can clock these trends around body size along with the social progression of the era, it doesn't always align with examples in history, first and foremost. And second off, it again negates the idea that there are health consequences to this. And this is the thing. I don't see that many people out there unless, again, you are in very niche communities on the internet where they are talking about promoting EDs, which we definitely don't do that here. But I don't see a whole lot of people actually doing that. I see a lot of people talking about trying to get to a healthy weight or wanting to be strong, but just not wanting to be morbidly obese or wanting to lose weight in a healthy manner. And that has been labeled fatphobic by members of these communities. So this whole idea that these things are conservative, not only does it not align with history, but it also just is a very extreme way of thinking and a reactionary way of thinking. And unfortunately, that is what I have seen more than anything in the last 20 to 30 years of my life, is just how reactionary politics in general, but so many aspects of life have become. And I understand the irony of saying this, knowing that I am a reaction channel. But I do see so many times where if one group says this and I don't like that group, I'm going to say the opposite. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if somebody is saying something factual, but if it's a group that I don't like, I'm going to say the other thing. And that's exactly what this feels like. Oh, conservatives have talked about health or wanting to be healthy or trying to lose weight or go on a diet. So therefore, we're going to do the opposite. And we're just going to get fat out of protest. Because in that case, I'm genuinely curious, who is that benefiting? And there are so many other examples that is applicable to, let's be fair. But in this case, I'm genuinely curious, what does that serve? To push this idea that it is a conservative ideology in the first place. This idea that leftists shouldn't even touch it. We should not want to be healthy. Because that is what fat phobia has been labeled in so many cases. Wanting to lose weight, tracking your food, counting calories, following a meal plan, intentionally thinking about losing weight, complimenting somebody's weight loss. I have heard the following things be labeled as fat phobic. Weighing yourself.
This comment was made in response to my video explaining how to decline being weighed at the doctor's office. And the answer is because of fat phobia.
Before and after pictures.
Before and after weight loss videos are fat phobic.
Losing weight.
If you are intentionally losing weight, it is fat phobic.
Going to a gym. Working out.
So yes, if you work out strictly for appearance-based reasons, you are fat phobic.
Counting calories.
If you ever even look at nutrition labels, you have an eating disorder. Why would you want to know what you're putting in your body? Just go to the store and buy whatever looks good.
Following a meal plan.
I'm fat phobic, apparently. Simply because in the last video, I said, hey, you don't have to finish everything on your plate if you're full.
Refrigerator doors.
Every time you want to go to the fridge, and every time you go to the fridge, it calls you fat. It makes it harder for you to get to the fridge. That is fat phobia in its purest form. I rest my case.
Now, I know that one was probably made in jest, but you get the idea. When you're talking about something like fat phobia, which is so ill-defined and such a broad term, and then they're going to say it's a conservative ideology or it's rooted in conservatism. I fully disagree with that, and because that term is so ill-defined, they'll just go ahead and shift the goalposts anytime they wish to put a label on somebody. Or at least, that's what it feels like these movements have done in the past. But let's go ahead and check out her Twitter and see if she has maybe clarified this in any fashion. So I do have our friend's latest Twitter post pulled up, so let's go ahead and take a look what it says. Fat phobia is a conservative ideology, by the way. If you consider yourself a leftist and feel entitled to police others' bodies, I'm side-eyeing your whole belief system, actually. Okay, so she didn't really clarify anything, she just doubled down, but maybe the comments will shed a little light on this for us. Okay, so the most liked reply so far. People don't want to talk about fat phobia being rooted in anti-blackness. The phrase, quote, European beauty standards is so common, but if you talk about fat phobia and racism together, you get told you're crazy. So there it is. That's what she was really trying to say. It goes back to the whole argument once again of fat phobia is rooted in racism. Which I have to say, if we are going to be concerned about things that are rooted in racism, I find it just very ironic that that is the one thing that this group is laser focused on. They talk about nothing else that is rooted in racism or white supremacy or any of that. And in this country and around the world, there's a lot, I'm sure. Lots. Let's talk about the sugar industry. Actually, we could talk about that all day long, since that's the entire reason for the transatlantic slave trade, for modern slavery, and so many other atrocities that have gone on this planet. So it's very curious that they talk about beauty standards and body standards as being rooted in racism, but they'll never touch the sugar industry or the food industry with a 10-foot pole, now will they? And let's be real, are we gonna, dig up Volkswagen, Orange Fanta? Are we gonna throw away every single Ford we've ever owned or anything that was ever created by Henry Ford? Because, there were a lot of terrible people that did leave us with things that we still use. There were a lot of people that invented things that believed terrible things. They may have been products of their time, or they may have been assholes. We'll never know because we weren't around then. But just because somebody who invented something was a terrible person, does that mean we should throw away the invention too? Or do we only concern ourselves in these things when it suits us? And let me address the European beauty standards, because I hear them talk about this a lot in body positivity and fat acceptance, that it's Western beauty standards or European beauty standards that have caused this whole problem for them. But I'm genuinely curious. What are Eastern beauty standards like? So I don't believe it's just European beauty standards. It's almost as if beauty standards may have sprung out of what is healthy and desirable in a partner or a mate. Almost, right? But maybe that's just me. Let me know down in the comments below. What do you think? I'm genuinely curious and I love reading all of your responses. That is where we will leave things today. I thank you so much for joining me. Please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye! It's more Pokey. Yeah, say hi, baby. That's right. And we finished up just in time to be able to watch the Cows game. You excited, baby? We're going to let them know tonight. Yeah, Mommy's wearing her victory frogs. Time to get back in the win column. What do you think, baby? Who do you want for the Super Bowl? Do you want the Eagles or the Chiefs? Who are you going for? Not happy with either choice? I know. Mommy picked both the Bills and the Commanders to win. So don't ask me for football picks. All I know is I'm ready for baseball season. It's almost time. Almost time. Yes, pitchers and catchers report soon, and you're stuck on my tape. Thank you, baby. Yes, pitchers and catchers report soon. Bye.